When I was 12, I always bragged to my mom saying about how when I grow up, I was gonna be rich and famous. When I grew up, I moved to a house in the Bahamas and my mom was so proud. She would always compliment me on how good I was and how hard I worked. But in reality, I was just living off my savings. I was too lazy to find a job and soon I became poor and homeless, living on the streets. One day I finally got a job as a tour guide. I did this till one day I had enough money to buy myself my own handmade island. I bought 6,000 rocks, each one about the size of a car. Then I hired a boat crew to stick them up in the ocean. And I made an island. I also took sand from the ocean floor and put it on my island. But after a while, there wasn't a lot of sand around in my island. In the water around it, it became too deep. So I stopped digging and waited for a big storm to come. When it came, it pushed up a lot of sand against my island, making my beach and making the water around it shallow again. Then I began to save more money. Once I had enough money, I bought a lot of topsoil and rich garden soil. I planted palm, banana, and coconut trees. I would always brag to my neighbors about the tropical garden I had made. But they bragged back saying that their gardens were better just because they actually grew their food. So I saved up more money and I made a self-sustaining garden. And oh boy, were they mad. But to be honest, I wasn't really working hard enough to get a lot of money. And although my island was a tropical paradise, it was really a tent I lived on. All my neighbors lived on man-made islands. So mine didn't work as usual. Except I had rocks and soil instead of sand and shells. One day someone came to me and said that if I didn't start working harder, I was gonna become poor again. They must have seen me before out on the streets and recognized me. "Shut up," I told them. One day a big storm came when I was outside of my tent. My neighbors told me that they were leaving. They called it Hurricane Dorian. Little did I know that it was the biggest storm ever and that it was going to change my life. I didn't leave, so when the storm came, I was shocked about how strong it was. I have been living here for 45 years and never seen something so scary. I decided to escape to the mainland using a canoe. But midway, the waves came and tipped my canoe. I fell into the ocean right where a very powerful current was. The current began to pull me further and further from the island or any island for miles. If I had just listened to that one guy and worked a little bit harder, I could have escaped or built a seawall to protect my island. Instead, I didn't work harder like he warned me to. I just kept saving a little bit and then spending it all. I never had a penny to spare. Then, finally, after many days, I felt like I was dead. I had been holding onto a piece of driftwood for days. 6 days after the storm had swept me away, it was sunny. I washed up on a beach somewhere, but I wasn't sure where. I heard people playing in for backyards talking about how bad Hurricane Dorian was. I asked him when he saw me on the beach, "Where am I?" One of the kids, thinking that I had made a joke, simply replied, "You're in Indian Rocks Beach, Florida. Your tropical vacation awaits you." I began to yell and the other kids just laughed. Then one man said he saw me in the local newspaper. "You have been reported missing for 3 days," he told me. He began to ask where was I. I was very confused. I couldn't stop thinking about how I made it all the way to Florida. I was starving. After a long meal and talking with some local press, I was transported by a boat back to my island. As soon as I arrived, I got a mysterious phone call. It was my mom. She had told me she was moving in and she was going to help me recover. We worked together and built a house and I got a good job. Then we could afford my dream house. It has been a few months since then and the construction crews just finished building my mansion. If there's one lesson that I had learned from this deadly experience, it's that you should always work hard and shouldn't brag to other people about how great you are. We are all equal, whether we are rich or poor. And you can do anything. Dream big.